Yeah, I would say I'm surprised, but I'm not. Hi, my name is Sydney, welcome back to hell. And today it is hell indeed. And as per usual, before we launch in, today's video is sponsored by Invideo. And of course by me and my tea company, Lions Tea Exchange. Which comes in handy for a video like this because it seems that when people discuss the Chris Tyson / MrBeast situation, they get demonetized. So buying a box of my tea is genuinely a really good way of supporting my channel, and it's also a good way of having a yummy cup of tea. So, you know, it's a double whammy. So go check it out. I will link it in the description box. Actually, speaking of tea, I don't know if you can see this, but look at my newest concoction. I talked about Magic Mind in another video a little while ago, but because I drink it every day and it makes me feel smarter, I thought I would mix it with my green tea. I like the taste of Magic Mind on its own as it is, so I'm not really sure what I was expecting, but it's actually pretty good. So you learn something new every day. So Magic Mind is yet another thing that I will also link in the description box for those of you who are also interested. Now, I have been paying close attention to the Chris Tyson drama as it's all unfolded over the last number of weeks, I guess you could say now, because I wanted to cover it in a deep dive type of video because I knew that the original allegations weren't going to be the start and end of the situation. I knew it was going to get worse because these situations always do. So with that in mind, I wanted to express something that has been really bothering me since I started looking into this and collecting all of my bits and pieces. For those of you who have no idea who Chris Tyson is and don't know what I'm talking about, Tyson was formerly a member of the MrBeast YouTube team and the best friend of Jimmy Donaldson, who happens to be MrBeast. Back in 2023, Tyson came out as transgender and eventually began identifying as a woman.
I am a woman!
Oh shit!
She, her!
About a month ago, a YouTube video was uploaded by a user called Prism42 who made some pretty serious allegations that Tyson had been having inappropriate interactions, relations, with a 13-year-old boy when Tyson was around 20. The pair allegedly also met up 3 years later when the boy was 16. Because what 22, 23-year-old man doesn't want to hang out with a 16-year-old? Like, come on guys, it's so obvious. Everybody wants that.
Everybody wants this.
The information in that video ended up popping off and got picked up by a bunch of other YouTubers, and over the last few weeks, more and more information has come to light. Some of which is fully unsubstantiated, but there's enough here that we can deduce that our friend has some serious issues. Essentially, all of this boils down to the fact that Chris Tyson has been having inappropriate, explicit interactions with teenage boys for years and years and years.
Chris Tyson from MrBeast used me, manipulated me, and did very inappropriate things with me while I was about 15 years old. I was actually friends with Lava GS at the time, who is the main victim of Chris that everyone has been talking about these last few days, who claims he isn't a victim, but we all know he is, and we all know he probably got paid off.
This is the least surprising thing I have found out this week. But you want to know what is a surprising thing? That you can use AI to make incredible videos. One product that is trying to use AI for good is the sponsor of today's video, Invideo AI. If you've ever wanted to create a video, you know that it can be a little challenging and a lot time consuming. But Invideo AI is trying to change that by enabling you to create and edit videos using simple text prompts. Start with a simple text prompt about your video idea. The more detailed it is, the better the result. Based off the first cut that Invideo generates, keep fine-tuning your creation with their user-friendly interface.
Ever pondered on how a simple headline can shape your perception of reality?
It will write the script, find relevant footage, and even let you add your own voice and subtitles. Meaning if you want your video to be voiced by you, Invideo can make that happen. And if you don't like something on screen, you can make easy edits to any of these things using the command box. I didn't like this one cut that Invideo gave me, so I asked it to start the video off with a joke.
Why did the president stumble during his speech? Because he was trying to skip over the tough issues.
I know the folks at Invideo AI are committed to enabling anyone to turn their ideas into publish-ready videos. And this is just version 1, meaning that even greater things are on the horizon. So you can try Invideo AI for free today, or if you're serious about content creation, then you can get the same paid plan as me that starts at just $20 a month. This lets you remove watermarks and gives you access to voice cloning and a ton of high-quality stock footage. So click the link in the description and use my code to get twice the amount of video generation credits in your first month. Now, all of this on its own is obviously incredibly bad. But the thing that I feel like is getting glossed over quite a lot in all of this is that terrible behavior typically doesn't happen in a vacuum. Meaning, typically, people who are around an individual who is doing questionable, terrible things are often aware of all of that to some extent. And I know this because I have worked in media and in content creation land for a number of years, and I have seen firsthand with my own eyeballs what people are willing to excuse or overlook or refuse to act on simply because it's inconvenient, or because they want to use the bad person in question to further their own career, or just because that person might be part of a protected group or a group of people who you can't say anything about. It's almost like there are so many open secrets about particular personalities, e-people, e-celebrities, whatever, that people just know, but nobody says or does anything about. And it's so bizarre, especially because there are these people who do things out in the open. They behave this way out in the open, and again, there's just no repercussions. Like, we have eyes. We see what you're doing. So with that said, I genuinely believe that is what is happening here with this Chris Tyson situation. I'm gonna try to be gentle in the way that I articulate myself here for a couple reasons. The primary ones being that I don't know these people personally, obviously, but I do know quite a bit about the industry, and I have seen things firsthand, so I feel like I can speak pretty definitively from that vantage point. But also I feel like there's a lot of information already that's come out that we can kind of start making some value judgments. And secondly, the reason for the gentleness is because YouTube has apparently been age restricting and monetizing people who have no words to say about both Chris and MrBeast, who I'm just gonna call Donaldson, because it's easier. And maybe it won't flag in the YouTube system, who's to say? Can't imagine why YouTube would be doing weird things to protect the biggest players on the platform. Imagine that. Crazy. Total mystery why YouTube does these things. Anyway, very early on when all of this was starting to gain traction, particularly on X/Twitter, another former MrBeast employee and friend called Jake Franklin tweeted that Jimmy Donaldson knew all along. When Donaldson eventually made his own statement about the situation a few days later, he said, "Over the last few days, I've become aware of the serious allegations of Tyson's behavior online, and I am disgusted and opposed to such unacceptable acts. During that time, I have been focused on hiring an independent third party to conduct a thorough investigation to ensure I have all the facts. That said, I've seen enough online to take immediate action to remove Ava from the company, my channel, and any association with MrBeast. I do not condone or support any of the inappropriate actions. I will allow the independent investigators the necessary time to conduct a comprehensive investigation and will take any further actions based on their findings." And here's the thing, that very well might have been the case. This entire group of people who work alongside Tyson genuinely might not know, might not have known about the ins and outs of the behavior being displayed, about interacting with these minors, and all of the other allegations and criticisms and accusations that are likely going to continue to come out as the days pass. But I sincerely doubt that. Donaldson and Tyson were best friends, and maybe they still are. They even started the MrBeast YouTube channel together. Their friendship group, because of the channel and its content, were spending an inordinate amount of time together, rooming together. They were part of the same Discord server, where Tyson was having public conversations about inappropriate material with these minors. And actually, speaking of the Discord server, there was a leak of a lot of these messages and interactions, and we can see in these messages that Donaldson is also in there making jokes and mucking around, discussing Tyson's nether regions and what have you. Whether or not these jokes between Tyson and Donaldson are spicy but largely innocuous, there were minors in that group. minors engaging like this, and it looks like a number of personalities on the MrBeast team were also in there interacting. It is actually remarkably easy to not text minors inappropriately. You just don't do it. It's like that simple. It's also worth noting that Donaldson and Tyson at one time lived together, and during that time, Tyson had hung a piece of artwork on the wall that he commissioned from an infamous artist called Shadman. Shadman is known for creating extremely graphic images, often depicting young girls. This guy is also like just a whole issue unto himself. I don't want to get into it. The image Tyson commissioned shows what appears to be a young girl dressed in very little clothing, putting a gun in her mouth. She also has a reference to large black male man pickles tattooed on her leg. I don't know how to say that in a YouTube-friendly way. But anyway, this is the image that Tyson decided to put in his home. And there is a video on the MrBeast channel where we can see on camera very clearly this piece of artwork, and Donaldson is sitting only a short distance away from it. Like, it's in plain sight. It's right there. Probably a meter away from your head. And you didn't know. Okay. It's probably worth noting that if you want to go and watch this with your own eyes and you go and find this specific MrBeast video, they've actually deleted about 2 minutes of footage from the video, so they've removed the part in question that demonstrates all of this, but there's a lot of these clips and stills and whatnot floating around on X or Twitter. In an abundance of caution as well, I've also just blurred and deleted everything, not because I don't think you guys can handle seeing what's on screen, but because I don't want to give YouTube more reasons to be unkind. So there's that. Anyway, apparently when Tyson went to meet with the 16-year-old I mentioned at the beginning of this video, another MrBeast personality was with him. Not to mention, Tyson was also making public tweets expressing his weird and terrible ideas and attractions publicly. So reasonably, if this is what he was saying openly and on the internet, what else was he expressing privately? So through all of this, I genuinely don't understand how the assertion can be made that these men had absolutely no idea what Tyson was doing and what this behavior looked like. And even beyond Tyson's immediate circle, there are plenty of people who have recently stepped up and tried to put distance between themselves and these allegations and this situation and this person. A good example of this is Finster. I think that's how that's pronounced. I'm not sure. Anyway, this is another E person who I also think is trans, but maybe not. So, yeah, so there's that. Who released a 16-minute video that essentially said, I had no idea this was happening.
Many of you know about the Ava Chris Tyson situation, and if you don't, the main plot line is that she was both publicly and privately talking inappropriately to a minor. If you're someone that looked up to Ava, I get it. 90% of what's out there is just people throwing slurs and lying about things. I get that you want to immediately jump to a defense. I'm obviously not going to be doing that. But from the perspective of someone that used to be a fairly close friend, let's go through what she said and did so you get context of the situation and you'll understand why I'm distancing myself and you'll see a bunch of other people distancing themselves too. I don't know if you can tell by the dead look in my eyes here, but I didn't exactly see this news coming.
Which again, I don't buy it. I'm sorry. This is the second time in Finster's career that these allegations have come out about somebody that Finster is friends with, and the response has always been, oh, I didn't know. I genuinely don't want to get into the guilt by association territory too much here because there's obvious problems with that, but like, come on. My primary point here is that people are popping up all over the place to do a whole bunch of ass covering to say that they didn't know about Tyson, that they were blindsided, despite the utter impossibility of them having not known the entire time. It genuinely does not make sense to me. I think the reason why I care so much about this and why this has made me so mad is because, well, for obvious reasons. Number one, on this channel we have talked a lot about child safeguarding and about the awful people that exist in society who harm young people and how much I hate those people. But also from like a personal vantage point of working in media for what, 5-6 years now and being in content creation for the same amount of time, I have just seen firsthand the overwhelming terribleness that other content creators, other people in the industry are willing to overlook because it's either advantageous for them to overlook it in the sense of, you know, like social climbing or getting further ahead in the industry, or just because like it's inconvenient to say something. It's inconvenient to them to speak out, to call somebody out, or at least just, you know, you don't have to necessarily out somebody publicly. You can just seriously distance yourself and pull away from them and not have any sort of relationship with these people. And so I guess I find all of that, oh, I didn't know, so disingenuous, because it's like these people wait until the hammer drops and then they turn around and have something to say, but it's largely just because they're doing a bunch of ass covering. And the thing is, these situations are almost always a lot worse than what is floating to the surface publicly. Now that I'm thinking about it, I think another component to this that's really frustrating is that sometimes people get cancelled and called out when they've done something that's not necessarily innocuous, but is just not that big of a deal. Maybe something icky, but it's just not that bad. And they're chased off the internet, they're attacked and denigrated and whatever. But people who do legitimately heinous things, for some reason, I don't know why this is, they just fly under the radar and nobody knows. And the people who do know just keep their mouth shut. Why? So to bring this back to this MrBeast debacle, this situation 100% extends beyond Tyson's immediate colleagues and friends. It also concerns all of the other creators who likely knew or had an inkling or who had heard some things, who said nothing at the time but now are coming out with these lukewarm responses. All of it just makes me so mad. There are undoubtedly so many conversations that need to be had about not only Tyson's behavior, but this behavior in general. We also probably need to talk about this trend in media where people either run interference for terrible people or just patently ignore terrible behavior because it would be very inconvenient for them to call it out. But we can't do any of that, especially in this case, because the allegations concern somebody who is transgender. And when that's the case, that becomes the primary concern. That is the primary focal point of the discussion rather than the actual issue at hand. So rather than calling a spade and discussing the situation as it should be discussed, it all starts to revolve around being sensitive to the transgender person in question, to using their correct pronouns and not misgendering them and not being offensive, lest everything that you say be written off completely because you're a bigoted transphobe. You can't be offensive, you can't misgender, and you can't talk about this in a way that makes a certain protected community look bad. And it's honestly terrible. And jokes aside, that genuinely adds an entire level of censorship to these type of situations, where people have to be more careful about how they're articulating themselves than just talking about something as it should be discussed, because if they don't get it 100% correct and they make the LGBTs upset, then their entire sentiment is disregarded. So in the end, what I'm trying to say here is that Tyson's behavior is not new, but also the covering up or the excusing it or the saying, oh, I didn't know any better, like I couldn't have done anything because I didn't know, is also not new, and it's an active problem in these kind of creative fields. And just to be perfectly clear here about two things predominantly, number one being, I'm not asking that internet personalities or online entertainment people be perfect figures. I'm not suggesting that all of us as human beings don't have a past, don't have things that we've done and said that we think about when we're trying to lay in bed at night going to sleep, but it's just like there and you're just thinking about how stupid you were and you can't work out why you did that. Not asking them to not have personal lives, not asking them to have things that they would rather keep private, not even saying that every single dumb thing that they've ever done or said should be public. In fact, I don't think that that should be the case at all. But we are largely, as human beings, just, you know, imperfect creatures that wander around in search of sugar. But it does make me incredibly angry when other people wander around saying that they had absolutely no idea about somebody's behavior when the chances of that actually being the case are slim to none. Especially considering that if you are a terrible person doing terrible things and other people are aware of it, especially if you don't even try to hide it, people are going to find out. And that's the sort of thing that I feel like audiences should probably be aware of, because why are you following people? Why are you giving money to people? Why are you engaging with people who are heinous creatures? And the second thing is that I firmly believe that there is a time and a place for edgy humor, by and large, where people do and say things that maybe I personally don't find particularly funny, maybe it's a little bit offensive, but you know what, at the end of the day, if they're not doing anything illegal, well, let them have their terrible, terrible jokes. And I don't think it's necessarily right to indict people because they are having these type of edgy weird humor situations with their adult friends, especially in private. But when you're doing this crap with 13, 14-year-olds, completely different story. Ultimately, I am not trying to argue for a moment that just because somebody gets found out to be a terrible human being, that means that every single person in their orbit knew that was the case. However, with relation to the Chris Tyson situation, I would be unbelievably surprised to find out that many of the people orbiting this individual weren't fully aware of the way that this individual behaves and many of the things that this individual has done. I don't buy it, I don't believe it, and like I've already said, this is genuinely a problem in the media space, and I don't think that it's going to go away anytime soon. So there you go, team. That's my opinion on this particular component of this particular situation. And obviously, I have a personal feeling about this just based on all the things that I've seen. And if you are interested in me making a longer, more deep divey video into this entire situation, I would be more than happy to do so, but I figured I would put that ball in your court and you guys can tell me if it's of interest to you or not. But otherwise, my next video will be out in a couple of days, so stay tuned for that and we will get back on our regularly scheduled programming. And of course, before I open the floor to all of you, this is just a reminder to check out Invideo using the link in the description. I think it's totally worth doing if you're interested in getting involved in making videos yourself. It's a really, really good starting point. Now, open the floor to all of you. What do you all think? Are you on my side of this issue where you think that the majority of people involved in this situation probably knew what was going on, either fully or at least a little bit? Or do you think that maybe it's unfair to make that kind of judgment about these people and what they did or didn't know? What do you think about the guilt by association factor here? Do you think it's fair? Do you think it's unfair? And what do you make of this situation overall? As always, if you have made it this far in the video, congratulations. You know I like having you along for the full ride. If you are not subscribed already and you would like to see more of this and more of me, then feel free to hit the button, as well as liking this video and leaving me a comment. It helps tremendously. And as you guys know, I love your video suggestions. I have a running list of them, so feel free to leave me any if there's something that you would like me to cover. Of course, and as always, I really look forward to hearing all of your feedback about this particular issue. I know that you guys are going to have a ton of opinions. But until next time, stay safe and well, and I will see you in the next video.